Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. General, we have some developments going on in the Middle East. Peace talks have resumed in Washington after Israel agrees to release some terrorist prisoners. Now, there's a key part to this demand that's been going on right now.
The key part, as I see it, Mike, is that this is really nothing new. It's just an opening statement about what they would negotiate and what they won't. The prisoners they talk about are really contingent upon other things happening in reference to what the Palestinian authorities would be willing to give and take, and so on and so forth. So what I think you're seeing is an opening salvo. They have so many weeks to come up with what that set of criterion is going to be, and then they'll start the actual peace talks. And so it's a good sign, but at the same time, it's nothing new.
Well, Secretary of State John Kerry says, and he's not putting a demand on it, but like a timetable of 9 months. Is it good that he's just doing a timetable just in case they don't hit that?
He is, and I'll tell you, so far, what I've seen him do is been pretty effective. What he's doing is giving them an opportunity to really vet their concerns, not saying that, okay, if you don't do it by this particular time, all is off and all is lost. So I think if you give him the kind of flexibility that he is in negotiating this and kind of being the moderator, it's a new approach from what I can see.
All right, some of the issues here, if you're Israel, what are you looking for?
For Israel, I'm looking, or continue to look for security for Israel. And that's one of the sticking points about the West Bank. And I think one of the Palestinian authorities' desire is to want to go back to the pre-67 war with its borders. I don't think you'll see that, because Israel has always looked to having some kind of a security barrier between Israel and the other nations that would perhaps want to invade her.
And how does Jerusalem fit into all of this?
Jerusalem's a key point. You know, the Palestinians want to see that broken up into sectors, and Israel is saying that's not going to happen. That will continue to be the capital of Jerusalem, and I think you'd probably see some kind of negotiations to give them better access, but I don't think you'll see them actually taking ownership of different parts of Jerusalem.
Well, General, with any negotiation, you're always talking about some type of concession. So what kind of concessions are both sides willing to give? Because over the last 5 years, they have not talked, so they didn't want to give up anything.
Yeah. Israel, I think, will, as she already suggested, is willing to give up prisoners, political prisoners perhaps in the eyes of Palestine. At the same time, I think she's looking to making sure she has that border in that area in the West Bank. One of the concessions, I think, would be to stop expansion and to stop building in that area. That's one of the Palestinians' requirements. So you have both sides looking at it from their own security point of view, but more or less security for Israel is first and foremost.
You know, some officials have said this is kind of the calm before the storm. An increase in terrorism is possible, and possibly looking at another war. That might be not far off, because we're seeing what's going on in Iraq today.
You're absolutely right, Mike. If you look at Iraq, I think this past month has been the most deadly month since the war allegedly ended. And 700 fatalities, I believe. And when you see that starting to expand, then you know well that there are insurgencies within Iraq that will continue to expand it. Once we're out of Afghanistan, you can rest assured that same thing will happen in Afghanistan. Then you talk about the unrest in Egypt, you talk about what's happening in Libya. That entire area will become once again an area in turmoil. In the midst of that, we're looking at talks for peace between Israel and Palestine, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic it might be worthwhile, but it's very doubtful.
All right, Libya, Egypt, Afghanistan, Iraq. If the problems continue there, how does that hurt the peace talks with Israel and Palestine?
Well, once again, all those countries and all the terrorism that's taking place is that those individuals, the insurgents and the radicals, do not want a U.S. presence or any kind of tie to the Mideast. And knowing that Israel is our ally, that's probably going to be a sticking point somewhere along the line.
All right, they don't want the U.S. How is John Kerry being able to negotiate all of this?
Well, I think right now he's concentrating on Israel and the Palestinian authorities. He's really not touching the rest of the story. And that will be, at some point in the future, the rest of the story will have an impact on what actually happens in the peace talks.
Story coming to an end in 9 months? Do you see us hitting that date?
In 9 months for what?
For the negotiations between the two sides?
I don't see it actually having anything in fruition. I think you'll see that date being adjusted, because I don't believe that they'll be able to come to all these conclusions within that period.
All right, General Centracchio, thank you. Of course, this story is fluid, and we're going to stay on top of this story as it develops. Thank you for watching.